All right, you guys are live in effect. This is the Locker Room Show. And for those joining us the first time, this is where we close the doors, you guys. We tell the truth. We talk about what's important to football families, football players, coaches. And this is where we dive deep. We got an amazing guest for you guys tonight. Somebody that's a dear friend of mine. I look at as a brother. This is somebody that actually came on my radar at about 16 years old. I believe it was California, Texas All-American Shrine Game. Phenomenal high school wide receiver coming out of California, decided to go to the University of Colorado. That's where we became teammates, even a little bit professionally in the Arena League. So none other than Coach Chiv. How's it going, Playmaker?
It's going good, man. I'm out here back on the West Coast, man, where I'm born and raised. So it's good to be home, man, for sure.
Definitely, man. And thank you. I know you're busy, so thank you for taking the time. And then you guys know the man on the far right. That is none other than my co-host, Q, the guru. What's going on, superstar?
What's going on, Coach? What's going on? How you feeling, man?
Good, man. You ready to get after it?
Oh, no doubt. It's another fresh week. Let's get at it.
All right.
Break the huddle.
All right. So let's get after it, you guys. And sorry for the little delay. That was Coach's fault, little technical difficulty.
The coach had a quiche in the oven. That's what the issue was.
That's what it was. We got to get some food in the belly. So, hey, if you're joining us live, let us know where you're from. I already see the De Jesus family checking in. He says he's on his way home. A phenomenal wide receiver out of Modesto, JC. So, Coach Shiv might be on you a little bit later. We got Jimmy, as always, jumping in.
Big
Frankie,
Jimmy.
I see you, Playmaker. And then, of course, the great Andy Peak, former Buffalo teammate of me and Coach Shiv. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. And then for those that are catching the recording, don't forget to share. Don't forget to subscribe. Let's get after it. Let's build this thing together. Only episode 13. So brand new. You guys are breaking the ice with us, baby. So let's get into it. You know, those that are joining us the first time, you guys see the topics on the bottom. And we get right into it, you know, and we try to cover things that you guys are talking about, things that you can learn from. Coach Shiv is going to jump in with us tonight. And we're starting off with something that, Q, you brought to my attention. And that was the fact that high school coaches, football coaches in Dallas, it looks like independent school district, can now make $100,000 plus, dude, for coaching high school football. And I guess that's, you know, wins or losses, it doesn't matter. So talk to me a little bit, Q. What do you think about this new prop that passed for these boys?
Well, you know what, Coach? I mean, I think it's great. I mean, I was in a Texas high school Facebook group I'm a part of. I'm down here in Houston, and I mean, to me, it's almost not enough money because when you look at these programs like North Shore and Katy and these kids that are getting cranked out, and you're looking at programs like SC, UCLA, Texas. I mean, man, these schools are making millions and millions of dollars, especially if you're a 4 or 5 star kid. I mean, so it's like these programs, especially the prominent ones that are cranking out those type of kids. I mean, the amount of work that these coaches are putting in to develop them. I mean, it's almost 122 grand, which is the approximate, almost still isn't enough money.
And we obviously got the perfect person on to talk about this as well. I mean, you deal with some of these coaches, Shiv, hand in hand for the recruiting side. Do you think that this is a little rich, or you think that this is, hey, par for the course?
You know, I don't think it's a matter of like how many hours they put in or how many games they win. It really comes down to revenue. And the difference between high school coaches and college coaches, it's not that they work any harder. It's not that college coaches work harder than high school coaches, because I've been around those programs. I see how hard they grind in those offices. You know, the difference is obviously TV contracts. The reason why college coaches get paid the money they do is because of what they generate off TV contracts. Mm-hmm. Now, high school teams don't have TV contracts. You know, they don't. So do I think that they deserve that? Yeah, I think that Dallas, Texas, and Texas in general, I've recruited that area for over 15 years. and some of the best players in the country come out of Texas. There's no question. We've had some at Colorado. UCLA's had a bunch of them, and programs all over the nation have had great players from the state of Texas. I do think that that football is I've sat in a lot of meetings and I've seen a lot of presidents at universities talk about, football and athletics being the front porch of their institution. And I believe a lot of high school programs in Texas feel the same way. They feel that when, schools like North Shore or, South Oak Cliff or schools like that are competing, year in and year out, it brings great, positive, press to their school. And I believe that principals and people that are decision makers at the high school level feel that that's important. And so that's why those coaches are getting paid this money, and they deserve it. Yes, they deserve it. And I know there's going to be pushback from different parts of the school and different parts of the community, but I do believe that, athletics is important at the high school level. It's important at the college level, the professional level. And we see that year in and year out, and we see that week in and week out. And, good for them. I'm glad they're getting, what I feel they deserve.
Yeah, and it's market value. You guys, these kids are putting these schools in the newspaper. They're getting them on ESPN games, so they're bringing value to the school as well. So great points, you guys, there. We're on to our next topic, and this is another one that has been covered recently a lot. You guys have seen on SportsCenter, on Fox Sports, but it is Brian Flores, and former Dolphins coach. He is currently suing the NFL, you guys, but has a job. He has a job with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And what do you think, Shiv? I mean, former NFL player. Does the NFL behind closed doors say, hey, maybe this lawsuit can be a little bit better if we make sure he has a job? Or you think this is just totally what Pittsburgh is doing on their own?
I think Pittsburgh's doing it on their own. I don't think the NFL in any way is involved in the Steelers hiring Brian Flores. I think, Brian Flores is a proven coach. He's a proven defensive mind at that level. The former owner of the Steelers is Dan Rooney. That the Rooney Rule is in place to make sure that minority candidates are interviewed before a decision is made. And I think that's a good rule. I do. I think it's a good rule for the league. I think it's a good rule for minority candidates in general. Brian Flores has a job because he's a good coach. And, Mike Tomlin hired him because he's a good football coach. He didn't hire him as a favor to the league or anybody else. So, obviously the lawsuit's going to play out over a number of years. It's not something that's going to be settled within the next 6 to 12 months. This is something that's going to play out probably for the next 5, 6, 7 years. And whoever wins on whatever side, there will be appeals that will go on for another 5 or 6 years. So, I'm sure Coach Flores is very happy to be in Pittsburgh and to be employed and be coaching football, which is why we all do this, because we enjoy coaching the game of football.
And what's your thoughts, Guru? Do you think we ever see Mr. Flores as a head coach again, or do you think it's going to be primarily as a coordinator position coach?
You know what? That's kind of hard to say. I mean, with the again, as Coach Shiv was saying, he's definitely he's a proven coach, and I mean, I've never heard anything less than Coach Tomlin being a solid coach as well, a player's coach, and I mean, he's always made good judgment on guys that he's brought in as far as players and bringing into that organization. So I don't think that Coach Flores is going to be any different. Bottom line is win. Coming in as a coordinator, and just flat out doing your job. And I'm sure, that his name will come up, with how many teams we don't know, but I think that he'll get, down the road, might get another opportunity as a head coach.
Well, that's good for him. And obviously, like Coach Shiv said, we'll see what goes on with this lawsuit. We got some more people joining us. I see John Donahoe. What's going on? Former CU teammate as well. Thank you for joining us tonight. And you guys that are just coming into the locker room, special night. We've got Coach Shiv with us. He's got new digs that he's heading off to, and we'll talk to him about that shortly. So, the next thing we're getting into is something that, you're one of few that can answer. And this is the college or pro question, Coach Shiv. And for those that don't know, Coach Shiv was a hell of a football player and actually was drafted by the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, was an offensive coordinator with the CU Buffaloes, and now is with the UCLA Bruins. So talk to us, Coach Chiv. Night before a big game, man, you a little bit more nervous as a player playing in an NFL game or a college offensive coordinator, knowing that a lot of people are looking at you to help make plays?
I wouldn't say that it wasn't being nervous. I think it's more anxious. And I think when you're a player, especially when I was a college or an NFL player, I knew that I had to handle my job. I think when you're a player, you're just worried about what you're doing. When you're a coach, you got to worry about all 11 on offense. And so I was definitely a little more anxious, as a coordinator, when you're worried about, you're worried about your quarterback, you're worried about your receivers, your tight ends, your offensive line, your running backs. As a player, I was very confident in who I was as a player. I knew I put my work in. I knew I did my film study. I knew I practiced hard. I knew the game plan. I think as a coach, you're a little more anxious because you're not sure if all those guys did everything they needed to do to be successful every Saturday or every Sunday. So definitely I was probably more anxious as a coach than I was as a player. I was always, confident in what I was doing as a player.
Man.
You're on the real sticks. We used to play video games. You're offensive coordinator. You're on the real deal video game.
That's right. There ain't no question. I mean, when you're calling plays at the Division I level, there's ebbs and flows to a game. Every team is different. Every year is different. Your roster changes from year to year. When you're a player, you're worried about what you're doing and what kind of training you put in, in the off season or during that week. So it's definitely very different.
Coach,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, my bad. What I was going to ask Coach Chiv is, what do you see with these kids in this era, the difference versus our era? Whether it's ability, whether it's toughness, whatever it may be, what do you see that kind of differentiates the then and now?
I think more than ever, that kids have more distractions nowadays than they did when we played. And they also have more criticism that comes their way each and every week. When we played, if you had a bad game or if you had a good game, you read about in Sunday's paper and then you move on, right?
Yeah.
And then you're on to the next. But, for today's athlete, whatever sport it is, college football, college basketball, college baseball, if you have a bad game, as soon as you open your phone, you're going to have 55 notifications on Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is that you played bad. And everybody's got the answers, right, on what you should have done, whether you're a player or as a coach, I think that's tough on kids. I think that's tough on their mental health. I think it's tough on how they have to interact with their teammates the next day because everybody sees it, right? Yeah. Everybody follows the same people and everybody sees it on their timeline. Right. I think today's athlete, it's you would definitely, they have to be tougher than we were as far as the mental side of the game. I think the game has changed and evolved immensely over the last 20 years since we played college ball. You see a lot more teams that run spread or play tempo or play open set. When I played, there was 2 receivers on the field. You had a Z and an X, and maybe on third down you went 3 receivers. The majority of teams now playing 11 personnel, and a lot of teams playing 10 personnel. Yeah. And then if you have the personnel, you're going to be probably in some 12. But I do believe the game has evolved. I think that the stresses on the players are a lot more immense than it was when we played. I think us older athletes all like to say, kids have changed and the game was tougher when we played, but it's really not. I believe the athletes have gotten better, from the offensive and defensive linemen to the linebacker positions to the corners and receivers. Everybody's a better athlete than they were when we played 25 years ago. So, I like where the game is headed.
You can't say that on the air. You can't say 20 years.
I know, man. It's been a while, T.Wood. But, it's fun to see the game evolve. I think, college football and pro football you can see it by just the numbers alone, man. When the national championship game's on or Super Bowl's on, everybody's watching, right? Yeah. Everybody's watching. Whether they're a football fan or not, they're watching.
Social media,
That just shows you how much the game has grown over the last, 25 years.
Yeah.
Great point. And we are on to our next question. If you guys are just joining us, thank you for joining us live. This is the Locker Room Show brought to you by Before You Go Pro. We want to teach, we want to educate, we want you guys to be a level ahead of the competition. So we've got Coach Shiv. He's been busy. He's taking his time to dive in tonight. And if you guys have a question, put it in the comment section, and we quite possibly will get to it at the end of the show. This was something that kind of popped up before. I didn't kind of give you a heads up on this, but I'm very interested, Coach. You had a great career as a player, but that's one thing. Being a coach is totally different. Who are maybe 2 or 3 that on the coaching side have been mentors for you or have really helped you excel your coaching career?
What's interesting for me is, I played professional football for 7 years. And then, when I retired and went into coaching, I moved back to California and I started from the bottom. I started as a junior college coach, here in California at Mount San Antonio Junior College in Walnut, California. And, I was fortunate to be with some really good coaches at this level. Tom Kraft, who is now the head coach at Riverside City College, is, a renowned junior college coach. He's won 3 national titles at Palomar, won a national championship at Riverside City. He was a former head coach at San Diego State and a very good offensive mind. And, I was always a smart football player. But I think what players have to understand, especially former players, is, you think you're going to be a good coach because you played, right? But it really comes down to understanding the whole game, from protections to run game to pass game and how it all ties in. And I think as players, sometimes we don't really understand that until we start coaching. Sometimes, great players don't make great coaches because they think everybody should know what they know. And that's not always the case. And so, working for a guy like Tom Kraft, who, like I said, has won a ton of games at the junior college level, he was a great mentor for me because I got to learn how to coach. Even though I was a bright football player when I played, I had to learn how to coach. I had to learn my own style. But the one advice I'll give like young coaches that are maybe on this call or want to be coaches is that don't try to be someone else. Learn from other people, learn from mentors that you might be studying underneath, but make sure you have your own identity of who you are. That's one thing that I stayed true to myself is I never tried to be like any other coach that I worked for or worked under or worked with. I wanted to have my own identity, but also learn the positives and also the negatives. You're going to learn things from coaches that you work with that, man, when I get a chance to be a head coach or get a chance to run my own program, I'm not doing that. And I've learned that over the course of my career. And I know someday I'll get a chance to be a head coach. I know that's in my DNA as a person. It hasn't happened yet, but I do believe and I'm confident in who I am in my coaching ability. And the mentors that I learned under have helped me see that. There's going to be good years, there's going to be bad years. There's going to be good teams, there's going to be bad teams. And sometimes you do your best coaching job when you're not very good because you're trying to overcome a lot of things that go on within the structure of your team. But, Tom was definitely a big mentor. I think, when I was playing for the Atlanta Falcons, Dan Reeves had a big impact on me because I loved the way he handled the football team. I really did. I listened to him in his meetings. He was fair with people, but he was firm with people. And I respected that. Even though I was only on the Falcons for that 1 year, I learned a lot from Coach Reeves and how he handled his team. And he was a legendary coach. Obviously, he passed away just recently, but I had a lot of respect for Dan Reeves. And the other one that I also had a lot of respect for when I was playing was Bruce Arians. I played for Bruce in Cleveland. He was our coordinator. Loved the way he handled the team. Loved the way that he was direct. And Bruce is going to tell you how it is. He's not going to sugarcoat anything. So, I think over my playing career and my coaching career, those are people that kind of influenced me. But I always knew that when I got into coaching, I was going to be myself and be who I am. And I've always been proud of the fact that I've been able to do that.
Well, you're an amazing teammate, man. So I know, and obviously it speaks for itself. You can tell the type of relationship you have with a lot of your players. So it's big time, man. And let's go on to our next topic. Thank you for joining us. This is Coach Wood. We got Q, the guru as always, and then Coach Shiv, who is now offensive analyst for UCLA Bruins, and it's going down in Pasadena. I know, big time this year coming up. So let's get on to a topic, you guys, that is obviously going to affect many college football teams this upcoming season. And I'll go to you, Guru. 4 teams. Is that enough for college football playoffs? Are there more that really can win? What's your thoughts?
I think they need to open it up. I would say 8. I would agree with that. I think it's more competitive teams that deserve to be there, other than just SEC teams. Obviously we know, the SEC has a lot of horses. They have a lot of, checks flying around. Coach, previous shows we've talked about that when Cincinnati was wrecking shop this year. Even years back, Coach Shiv, Boise State was a giant killer. Those type of teams that might not be in these, in the Big Ten, Pac-12 or what have you, but they're solid teams. They're 10-0, 11-0. They need a shot to get up in there, man, and see what they can do against the Ohio States and the Bamas, because they'll mess around and knock them off.
Now, obviously,
you still got to show up, man.
Yeah, you got to show up. Football's one game. We saw Cincinnati almost pull it off a few years early this year in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Coach Shiv, this directly affects you. I mean, the type of talent that is in Westwood, you guys, if they're expanding 8, it's showtime. So what do you think? Do you think 4 is too little, or you think it should be more?
I do think it should be expanded. The crazy thing is that these are still college athletes. And I think when you talk about expanding or making a 16, team playoff, or, and also you have to realize that when you're playing in the SEC or the Pac-12 or the Big 12 or these Power 5 conferences, you're getting beat up week in and week out.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think it should be expanded? Yeah, I do. I think it should go to 8, like Q was saying. I think it should be the 5 Power 5s. So the champions of each Power 5 conference should get an automatic berth in. And then you have 3 at-large berths. So whether it's the group of 5, whatever it may be, the highest ranked group of 5 should be rated. And then after the top, the champions of each Power 5 conference get in, then you have your 3 at large. But I think if you're going to do that, you have to be willing to shorten the season a little bit. I don't believe that, some of these conferences play a lot of like non-conference, non-Power 5 schools. And, because you just want to get the game in and get the win in for bowl eligibility. But then it goes back to the traditional bowl system. Everybody loves the bowls. Everybody wants to see teams in bowl games. And so you're going to have to give from somewhere. There's going to have to be something given from somewhere to expand the playoff system. And I know they say, well, FCS plays like a 5-round thing as well. But I do believe that at the Power 5 level, and even the group of 5 and the top schools at that level, a lot of good football is being played. And I think some of those teams will definitely compete in the playoffs and go far. But I think there's got to be something given somewhere to make that happen.
Big time right there. And you guys are getting it from somebody that's living it right now, trying to fight, scratch and claw, make sure that their conference is secure a college football playoff spot. And we definitely need that in the Pac-12. And now we are on, you guys, to the lightning round. And this is something that Coach Shiv is not accustomed to. But we're going to get into it tonight. This is a fan favorite, Coach Shiv. And basically, you've got 60 seconds. You've got 60 seconds.
No huddle, Coach.
No huddle. No 2-minute drill.
Right out
even
gun,
faster
right.
To get through as many of our topics are names. Some of these are names that you can get through. Our record in 60 seconds, Shiv, is 9. And whoever can beat 9 is going to have a nice dinner and hotel stay on before you go pro and the locker room show in their hometown state. We're not flying you anywhere because we don't have that kind of budget, and we're going to have to get a sponsor. We're going to have to work on a sponsor. So this is what we got going on.
We can do that.
There you go. So You ready to go, Coach Shiv?
Let's get it.
All right. So he said, let's get it. Let me get my stopwatch ready to go. And I know Coach Shiv was a little bit older now, but back in his day, he could get down the field and has run many of 40-yard dashes. So let's get the stopwatch ready. You guys, we are ready to go. We got 60 seconds. First thing that comes to your mind, unfiltered. Don't worry about it. On your marks, get set, go. The Pac-12.
Up and coming.
Cliff Kingsbury.
Offensive genius.
Matthew Stafford.
Shoot, man. Comeback story.
Wife wants to go out. Nashville or Austin?
Nashville.
2-minute drive. Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady?
Tom Brady.
Laviska Shenault.
Athletic beast.
The best DB you've ever played against?
Charles Woodson.
The best player you've ever coached against?
Deion Sanders.
Colorado, University of Colorado.
I mean, my heart.
And last but not least, UCLA Bruins.
Coming with it.
Coming with it. All right. So there you guys have it right there. Matter of fact, we're at 101, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. So there we go. He's right there with the best of them. Appreciate you letting us put you through that drill, Coach.
Yeah, no problem, T.Wood. I appreciate it.
So we are on to our last segment, you guys, and that's the audience Q&A. Now, if you're joining us live, you got a question for Coach, put it in the chat. If you're joining us as a recorded guest, then maybe you can email us at info@beforeyouGoPro. We can eventually get that to Coach. But for the audience question tonight, and this is actually a good one, taking this from one of our parents, Shiv. His son is currently just got an offer. He's going to go to a Power 5 school. I'm not going to say his name, but he's got a great offer, great player. He's wondering, this is a true question, do you think, in your opinion, that kids at the Power 5 level can still be groomed? Or is the industry so fast-paced now that we kind of got to move on to the next one?
As groomed, do you mean like be developed?
Yeah, as players.
Oh, of course you can be developed. You know, I think it's it's important for the player to understand wherever he gets to, whatever institution or university he signs with, is to make sure that he's invested in what he wants to do in his career. You know, there's no fast tracking. You're gonna have to put your work in. You know, and the thing about college athletics is you got to spend 3 years at that university before you turn pro. And so, you know, I think you can be developed? Yeah, it's proven year in and year out. You know, you see what Alabama does, you see what Clemson does, and even my time at Colorado, we were able to produce, you know, receivers that got drafted year in and year out. So, yes, I do believe that you can be developed, and it's on the player to be invested in his future, to put the work in, and the coaches are going to do their job as well.
Great, right there. And you know, as far as the recruiting process, is there any questions that maybe a parent can ask? And Q, if you have something you want to ask Coach Shiv, feel free. But is there maybe any questions that you could put in a parent's back pocket, Shiv, that you think may help them decipher, you know, if somebody's forthcoming or being honest with the recruitment of a young player?
Yeah, that's a good question.
You know, the one thing that I tell parents, because they ask me, obviously, you know, college football is big business, right? We all know that. You see the contracts for coaches. You see, obviously, what the university pulls in off TV contracts. But the thing that I'm honest with parents about is their play is going to speak for themselves. You know, there's no service out there. There's nothing that they can do that the film isn't going to show you. And so it's important for them to put good film out there, you know, be the best player they can be, work on their craft. And that doesn't mean just play football. I mean, you know, the best athletes that I've recruited over the years and signed have been multi-sport players.
Say that again, Coach.
They play basketball. I don't think sports specialization is the answer. I know that a lot of parents feel that way nowadays, that my son has to play football year round, and that's not the case. You know, I played baseball, I played basketball, I played football, and I played hockey, you know. And so I truly believe that let the kids be kids, and their athleticism is going to show themselves, and the film's not going to lie. Like play multiple sports. I've always encouraged, like, I've had many parents say, hey, should my son come early? Should my son be there in the summer? No, like, let them go to prom. Let them enjoy their senior year, because they'll never, ever get that back. I promise you, they'll have plenty of time in fall camp to earn a spot. They don't have to be there for spring, you know, like, enjoy being a kid. I think that's what we lose sight of in today's, you know, college athletics, is everybody's in a hurry to get there. Just enjoy the process, enjoy being a kid, enjoy being 16, 17, being a high school senior, taking your girlfriend to the prom, and being a kid. So that's the advice that I give a lot of parents, like, enjoy this process, because you're never going to get this back. You got to enjoy, you know, going through high school.
Awesome. Wow, Coach, I got a question for you. I'd like your opinion on, which obviously was non-existent, you know, back in the day when we were playing, but what's your opinion on the portal? And Coach T and I talk about this all the time, and I guess I'm a little bit biased, but it's one of those things where, to me, I think that the portal can be a double-edged sword. For some kids, it actually can be helpful, but for some kids, they don't want to battle. It's like you said, they don't want to perfect their craft. They don't want to get in there and fight. They don't want to fight from the threes to the ones. They shy away from that competition, and they rather hop into the portal and try to find the easy way to get in with the ones at another school. And, you know, a lot of times that's not the case either. You want to fight. You want to scrap after a while, but I'd just like your opinion on that.
You know, do I think the portal's a bad thing? No, I don't think the portal's a bad thing, because college coaches have been doing this for years, right? They've been they have a good season and they take another job. And so I'm not saying that the portal is a bad thing. I do believe there should be some rules put in place, just like there is in the NFL with free agency, and there's a contact period, there's a time when people can move on or transfer and all those kind of things. I do believe that, you know, any person, and I'm speaking from my own experiences of being a backup at Colorado for my first 2 years, backing up a first-round pick, and then finally getting my opportunity to be a starter my junior year, and then becoming an all Big 12 receiver, that had to face a lot of adversity, man. Really had to look myself in the mirror and become better, find ways to become a better receiver, a better player, a better leader. Do I think the portal is a bad thing for college football? No, I don't. I think there should be some parameters that are put in place. Mm-hmm. And I also believe that, you know, there's got to be some education on the portal with schools and with families and how it actually works. Because if you look at the numbers with the portal, there's only a small percentage that are actually landing in four-year institutions or Power 5 levels from a Power 5 school. It's a small percentage. And I think education has to be done, but it's so new. And I think there's not a lot of parameters in place right now that everybody's like, hey, you know, I'm having a bad day, then, you know, I might leave, you know, and I can't fault them for that, because that's their own decision. But, you know, I think when we grew up, we had to stay there. We had to you know, find a way to be better, you know, and I think it'll eventually get sorted out. I do think there'll eventually be more rules that are put in place with contact and when you can go in. You know, if you have a bad game, you can't jump in, but you can't fault the kid, because that's the rules that are in place right now. And college coaches have been doing it for years. And, you know, I think that we just got to sort our way through it and kind of find where the happy medium is for the players. And so it's a sound decision for them and not just a gut reaction.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Coach, because a lot of times I think people, you know, these kids, because it's a lack of information, Coach T, I was mentioning that earlier as well, you know, on a different show, everybody expects to have like this, what I call the Jameson Williams effects. You know, when he left Ohio State and ended up doing what he did, you know, with Bama, but that's rare. That's not going to happen with everyone. But every kid thinks that that's going to be the case for them.
Or Joe Burrow.
Exactly. That's what they expect for it to be. And it, like Coach said, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to pan out that way.
This is one I just thought of. You got time for one more, Shiv?
Yeah, sure.
This is one I just thought of because, I mean, it's got to be hard. You brought up earlier the mental side that's harder today. Now, we all know sitting on this podcast that quarterback is the spot, whether it's high school, college, pro, whoever's going to win, it's got a boy back there. Is it harder from a coaching standpoint, Shiv, to get in a kid's head mentally and determine if he's the type that will be able to handle UCLA type pressure from the quarterback standpoint? Or is that just the same as always?
I think at the end of the day, you don't know until they start playing in real games, not just practice. Practice will show you a little bit. But I truly believe that, when the lights come on and the scoreboard gets turned on and there's people in the stands, that's when you find out not only about a quarterback, but also every position. I've seen guys that look very good from, a receiver standpoint or an offensive tackle standpoint or a running back standpoint. And all of a sudden you turn the lights on and they bust protection, whether they're a tailback or bust protection as a tackle or drop balls as a receiver. I really believe that you need game action to do any kind of, evaluation on a player. And the tough thing about college football and with quarterbacks is, obviously with the portal nowadays, if a guy doesn't win the job, they usually leave. And that's just the reality of where we're at in college football and college athletics. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but, there's only one quarterback that's going to play as far as start the game and be on the field. It's a little different with offensive linemen. It's different with receivers. Yeah. And so I can see why if a quarterback, felt like he had a good camp and didn't get the nod, that he might say, hey, I'm going to make a move. But, I truly believe that the only way you can evaluate any player as far as the full body of work is in games.
No, that's a great point. And you guys, so a lot of you young football players listening, you got to keep that in mind. Even at the high school level, hey, I could go to varsity and sit on the bench, or I could play JV and be in the games and develop. So keep that in mind. Look at Brady. Marco, our family from San Antonio says, what type of player was Coach T.Wood at CU? Shiv,
don't worry about
it. I was a dog.
T.Wood was a really good player, man. And we had many of one-on-one battles during practice. And I remember old T.Wood, man, with the towel hanging out the back. And
you gotta look clean, Coach.
Those were good days, man. Those were good competition days.
Man,
and I think that gets lost sometimes. I remember Ben Kelly and those guys, Damon Wheeler, and shoot, man, we had many of one-on-one battles. And if they got me on one, I was going to try to get you guys back the next one. Competition is key, man. I think young players that are on this call, man, don't be afraid to compete. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes people are afraid to fail, and you can't be afraid to fail. I mean, you have to be willing to fail and come back fighting and be better on the next rep. And as long as you do that, you can look yourself in the mirror and be satisfied that you gave it everything you got.
Thanks.
Well, there you guys have it. Once again, you guys got Coach Shiv literally just got the deal to go off to UCLA. Once again, amazing coach and player. You're going to see him as a head coach. You guys got to realize that you got to keep everything tight with these coaches because they're going to go somewhere else. You're going to be looking for a scholarship, and they're going to be right there. This is his brother, his twin brother, Ryan. Got to give him a shout out. Obviously, friend of the program. We love Ryan as well. So, hey, Coach Shiv, thanks, man, and best of luck over there in the Rose Bowl, brother.
Definitely.
Yeah, I appreciate both of you. I appreciate you having me on the show. And shoot, T-Wood, this show's got a lot better, man. I remember I was on this show about 7 years ago, man, and we had no effects. So
yeah. We're still working on the bells and whistles, but we're gonna blow this baby up, man. So hey, thanks for coming on, man, and keep kicking ass.
I appreciate it, T. All right, man.
All right, good luck, Coach. Going up.
All right, man.